Listen, I want to do this on AG today.
Yeah.
I want to have a guy to come in, or maybe we could pre-record it or something. And it is, of course, licensed battlefield guide exam season.
Yeah.
And people who are aspiring guides watch and listen to the show. They listen to this one too. And so I want to give, I want guides to come on and just give their top 5 pieces of advice. Okay. For someone who's preparing to take the exam, whatever you think will be helpful, go ahead. Ralph, do you have it all ready to go?
I do.
All right, then go ahead and let us know.
This is it. I'm saying it while the, okay. Well, number one,
very short song.
It is September tomorrow. It's tomorrow or Sunday.
2 days.
Right. And if you are, as you just phrased it, preparing for the exam,
it's too late.
Don't send in your check. Okay.
Too late.
Save the $250. Buy a good bottle of scotch. Yeah, if you're preparing for the exam now,
meaning if you're starting your preparations,
or even
now.
Not finished. I studied for 5 years for my exam. Now I'm a unique case.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's just leave it maybe there. I actually have a diagnosable minor reading disability.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I went to a school classification where they classify the special ed kids. I went to one of those clinics, got evaluated.
As a 56-year-old man?
No, it wasn't that. It was 30 years ago. And but thank you for the 56. I'll take that. And yeah, and they diagnosed. They gave me a name for it, and I have a reading disability.
So you didn't find out until you were well into your adulthood.
And the clinician who explained it all to me. I could go into the process how they tested me, but it's kind of interesting. I was reading a newspaper, and they had cameras aiming at my pupils.
Interesting.
To see where my eyes were going. And he said, "Yeah, you have this type of disability."
What's it called?
AAD was the initials.
So not ADD.
No, that's what we were hoping for. He said, "Okay, well, yeah, you're a very slow reader. You have to look at all the words first and then put them together before you can read the sentence."
Huh.
I said, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, well, I'm a State House reporter for the Associated Press. And he said, "Get the F out of my office." He literally did. He said, because he's got a room full outside. He's got a room full of Philadelphia school kids who are bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
You know, and their parents are waiting outside because they can't be in the room with all those kids. And I'm sitting in the middle of them trying to read the paper. And they're like landing in my lap.
Oh, that's funny.
And he said, "Okay, well, obviously you've compensated for this disability because if you're
you figured it out."
And then he did ask, like, and I said, "Well, we don't read books,
right?
You know what I mean? I read a press release. I'd read a piece of legislation at the summary, and we did bang out the story.
Right,
so I'm not sitting there reading, you know." I've never read a state budget, and I wrote about them for 30 years.
Did you ever ask a question in a press conference that might have been
no
ridiculous? Because
yeah, for sure.
Well, no, because you misread it.
No. We just asked ridiculous
Governor
questions. Whitman,
it says here that you with the trees have the cow.
No, none of that. No, I don't do that.
Way.
No,
okay.
I'm not. I didn't.
All right,
there was a reporter. There was a reporter intern for a radio station in Philadelphia who had Tourette's, and they wouldn't let her. They said, "Just sit here and pay attention during the press conferences." And one of the people called on him. That was something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he was so stressed.
Yeah.
And the Tourette's, if their stress builds up, he completely lost control.
Yeah.
And the governor was standing next to the guy who called on him, and she's just staring at him like, okay, obviously she's never seen this before. Yeah. And that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So, if you're preparing... I have sound effects too. There we go. If you're preparing for the exam, you're not.
Right. So, so you're saying that by this point, what if you're not even finished? What would finished be in your mind?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you.
If you can have partners and pop each other legitimate
there you
questions,
go. There you
they
go.
can answer them.
Okay, that's good. I like that. All right, then, Ralph. What is your second piece of advice?
Practice essays.
Practice essays. Very good piece of advice.
I did teach together with Amy Worden from Penn Live. Mm-hmm. We ran workshops this year helping candidates figure out how to do an essay. Okay. And the essays have really been magnified on the exam process to the extent that now the poor people taking the test have they write essays for like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's
by hand.
Do you think that's in part due to like essays kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse of their storytelling ability?
Yeah, we'll see.
No, but so is that's the problem though, is that
it's hard to grade those things.
Well, but not only that, but like, I tried to write by hand as often as possible because
that was what we did in the workshop. Was we gave everybody a pad of paper and made them write a practice essay for 30 minutes. Then the first thing we did when they were done is hand it to your neighbor to see if he can read
if it's legible. And
there were several who were like, what happened on this page?
It's amazing because like people draw like drunken 4-year-olds or write like drunken 4-year-olds. But I think it's because we type everything now. Of course. We're not using
When's
that.
When's the last time you sat down and wrote something?
Well, and that's why I actually make a purpose or a point to write, because I recognize when I tried to write a letter one time, I was like all over the place. I was like, wait, did I have anything to drink? Like I'm writing like a drunkard. So yes, it's very, okay. So essays.
Go practice them.
Go practice your essays.
Figure out, and like we learned this in the workshop, but it's not, well, people who register for the exam are going to get guidance, but the guidance is so general. Mm-hmm. At least it was in 2017, topics, July 1, July 2, July 3.
Mm-hmm. You don't say.
Cemetery. Okay, the essay is going to be somewhere in that world. So you don't know. But, if you sit down, if you've studied, you can think about it. Okay, I can guess what an essay is going to be.
Right.
So go ahead and guess what the essay is going to be. Write the question down and then write the essay.
Now, how long does this essay have to be? No more than a side of a page, right?
That was the rule in 17, but I think they're changing that. But I don't know. For the first things that you do when you're doing the essay is don't start writing the essay. When you see the question, sit down and think. Yeah. And then outline.
Map it out in your head.
Yeah.
Do you have scrap paper for the outline?
Good question.
Yeah.
You used to.
Yeah.
Now, when I took the exam, back when we were under candlelight and whalebone kerosene lanterns.
I was going to say, when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
No, not that long ago.
And whales.
When we used whale oil, okay, young lady? Whale oil. That's when we earned our lamps.
Right.
Call me Ishmael. And they smoked and they got in your eye. We had maybe 40 minutes or hour of essays.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't really remember. The test was completely leaning on questions. Now they really want you to write, and it's like, I think your arm's going to fall off. 3 hours.
Yeah. And practice writing is advice number 2. Yeah. Okay. Practice writing.
Then
wait, are you going on advice number 3?
His writing advice.
Oh, okay.
This is old.
So this is still part of number 2.
No, we'll move on to
all right. It's number 3.
I got nothing else.
Go ahead.
If you're going to throw dough at someone else and you want to hurt them, make sure it's sourdough bread. It hits with a very satisfying splotch. Makes a real loud noise. The head snaps back. It's just completely rewarding.
Okay. Carry some weight.
This is general advice for anyone who writes.
Throw sourdough bread.
This is good advice for anyone who writes anything.
Right.
Like that thing you wrote for Mike. Right?
Right.
Now, you wrote that?
Yes.
You see how crappy it sounded?
Yes.
Right. That's because you didn't read it.
No.
But when you heard him read it, all of us in the other room were wincing.
Yes. Well, I was ready to leave. I'm sorry. He was taking liberties with it, okay?
Oh, was he?
But in all fairness, I did not proofread it. I wrote it and printed it out.
I'm not talking about
Hold on, wait. I wrote it and I printed. Normally, I do read it out loud before I publish.
But this is also,
I did it before last week's show in haste because why, Ralph? I have no staff, so I do it all by myself. So,
and plus, you spend your nights before your shows
drinking
heavily, and smoking cigars.
Yes, with you.
Yeah, and man, when I got up this morning, when I saw how low that bourbon bottle had gone,
me and
there weren't that
Larry.
many people drinking. It was 3 of us drinking that, and the bottle was like.
Well, I had 3. I think Larry had it about the same. Every time one of us went, the other one went.
Larry Korchak.
It's like at frat parties in college. You know how bad it was based on how low the bottles are the next morning.
Yeah. What
how
Colby?
much did we drink?
Yeah.
Well, you should be glad he wasn't drinking wine coolers. He gets crazy on wine coolers.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah,
absolutely out of hand.
You put some Bartles and James in my hand and forget it, sister.
In my house, the wine coolers are stored next to the sourdough bread. That big blue square can marked recycling.
What is piece of advice number 4, Ralph?
Well, we were going to what you were saying.
Oh.
Which you didn't do with that thing.
Right.
You know, and this is general writing advice, like I said already, because I taught writing for a couple of years at Rider University and was a writer for many years before I fell off the ladder. And you have with you, boy, this great piece of advice. Makes the whole show worthwhile, that and the sourdough bread.
How's that loaf, guys? How's that?
You are in the presence of an excellent editor who can always help you make your writing better. And that's your ear.
Yes, that is true.
Ear is read it out loud.
Yep.
And so in our workshop, for example, we had people write an essay, 25 minutes. What were their Robert E. Lee's reasons for moving his army north? Because there's going to be a question somewhere.
Somewhere,
in that
sure,
thing,
of course.
And they're going to have a rubric where they have certain points, and those essay graders want to see that you covered those points, and that's how they grade it.
A Stanley
They don't grade
rubric.
it on whether you're Hemingway or Faulkner. They're grading it on whether you answered the 3 things that are on their list of the piece of paper.
So try not to be profound.
Read it out loud.
Yes, but but just get to the goddamn point.
Well, get to the goddamn point is for sure. That may be number 4. But going back to number 3. When going back, who was that? Was that Cam?
No.
Basta! Basta!
Oh, yeah. It's Matthew Broderick pretending to be a Civil War guy. That was good, yeah.
All right,
Teach them properly, Major Forbes.
I love that I thought that was Cam.
Yeah.
Basically anything where you can't understand it, I think is Cam.
Yeah. At the workshop, when people wrote their essays, then we had several people read their essays for the rest of the class to feedback on. And about 50% of the time, the people couldn't get through their essay.
Yeah,
they kept coughing and strangling on sentences. That they wrote, and it's like, that's a good test. Look at that. If you can't get through the sentence, then that's not a good sentence.
Right.
And of course, they're not writing for the wire service or for it be published in the Patriot News or anything. They're writing for an audience of 1.
Right.
But that audience of 1 has to understand what you're saying to him or her.
Right.
And another piece of writing advice that's universal.
This is number 4.
Okay,
Wait,
we'll take it.
Are we on to number 4?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I feel like we've done 17.
I think there's been 47.
I'm the sour bread dough of
what?
Go again.
essay questions. This is another, and I think I just forgot the piece of it. That's the final piece. Along with listening to your ear.
Listen to your rear.
Listen to read out loud and hear
Shirts
what
made.
you're saying. And
Don't just listen with your ear.
I think, but don't read your essay out loud during the class, during the test.
That would be bad.
They don't want that.
No.
So sort of read it internally.
Ralph, this is what it's like when I do the news.
And don't fart during the class. Don't fart. Now, I say this from practical experience because the guy next to me, when I took the test in 2002, had some kind of biological, genetic, or malnutrition problem.
Oh, no.
And through the whole test. Now, I live in New Jersey, and I drove past Elizabeth and Linden enough that you roll your windows up, but it comes in the car anyway.
Right,
if you don't hit that little orange button, you drive through Linden, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, so I was prepared for this part, but I could see people withering around me during the exam. They were shrinking in their seats like old salad. Like, what's that smell? And it's this guy that just was... And everyone knew it was him, and he's like cool, right? And
he doesn't care.
Maybe that
He's
was
used to
his
it.
idea of trying to get people to not get higher up in the ranking, to have people drop out.
I was afraid there was going to be an explosion in the room. Someone's going to light a cigarette, and the windows will blow out. So much methane gas that was in there.
If you're going to fart, you can't just not look around. Like, you got to act like you're smelling it for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a dead
You can't just
giveaway.
act like you're not. Yeah, that's what probably gave him away, is because he wasn't reacting at all. And everyone else is
He's
like,
got rotten eggs floating in the air, and he's just in his
skin color
paper.
is changing. So don't do that. Make sure your check doesn't bounce. I think we covered that.
Yeah, that's rule number
Don't
one.
send in a check at all if you're still preparing, quote unquote.
So now, okay.
Here is an excellent editor.
Okay, we got them all. They can go back and play. Now I have to move on. So I have to ask you this last thing though. When you're saying, well, let's because this is a good point that I've never heard anybody say before. Yeah. So I want to have you open this up, and then we're gonna go. You say if you're preparing or still preparing at September, don't take the exam this year.
You're not ready.
Well, what if they've been studying for the last 2 or 3 or 7 years?
You know something? So, anybody who's listening knows.
Okay. So this is what we were saying.
They're there.
This is what we were saying last week. We were talking about this last week.
Yeah.
If this would be a good time to give your brain a rest, right?
This is not a bad way of looking at it.
Okay.
To read a book that you really like.
Step away. You know what a good technique? I was talking with Wendy Allen one time. She's a painter.
Yeah, I know.
And I said, well, for people at home who don't know, and I said, you know, Wendy, I got this painting, and I started it a year ago, and I know what I need to do. I just can't see it and start, you know. And she said, well, we all go through this.
Is that for real? Do you really paint?
This is
Yeah, he does. He's
not as
good.
well as she does, but still, I do it. And she said, well, you know what some people do is they turn the painting around, leave it on the easel or leave it against the wall or whatever, but turn it around so that you can't see it. And then after a couple of weeks or a month or whatever time, flip it back and you might look at it with fresh eyes. So my point is, and I always just would leave the painting and then, you know, I walk by in the room out of the corner of my eye, maybe see something. So, but my point is though, that maybe it's kind of the same idea. You have to step away so that you can see it more clearly. And I think that whether you're doing the guide exam or anything, that's just good advice when you're really tightly wound.
And also when you get there.
Yes.
When you get to that level, you know, I've had lawyers tell me that you don't be looking at your notes while you're walking in to take the bar exam.
Right. Right.
You know,
it's not going to help you.
Feel like you're there.
Yeah. I always, when I was in school and I had an exam,
right,
I didn't study the morning of. I knew that wasn't
I
going to
remember
help
number
me.
5 now.
Okay. What's
number
5?
5? I'm holding a Sharpie in my hand. Write the Union Order of Battle on your forearm.
No, don't do that.
And then you can read it during look at it during the. No, they actually follow you into the bathroom.
Yeah.
If you go into the bathroom.
Yeah, but they do fold the toilet paper for you.
You know, it's a little odd. They keep the door open of the stall. They watch you. It was a little.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
And then I said after the exam, wasn't that a little much that the guy keeps the stall open and watches
what
me?
Guy?
And they said, right, exactly. What? Who? What Proctor?
What are you talking?
That guy Steve. Who? And then you see him running down through the woods. You know, with his underwear up in the devil's den.
Proctoring the test is named Steve.
Funny. That's funny.
He was listening with his rear.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
What I did is I read a book that I enjoyed. And if any of you like actually read the books you buy,
right,
you know that a 1 out of 10 Civil War history books is passable in terms of how it's written.
Yeah.
So like Catton's a good. Pick up Catton and read The Glory Road.
Right.
And it's a good way of putting your thoughts together.
Or pick up Chicago and listen to The Glory of Love.
Okay, I wouldn't do that at all.
That's not even.
I don't know.
I will say.
But I mean, Glory Road, as you well know, I hope, is the one of the trilogy that covers Gettysburg.
Yes.
And the trilogy is, and the reason is because he's so easy to read, especially if you've read, the history of the regiment by and they met by these history. I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah,
but a lot of these history books, these guys can't write. But you have to go through them because you're preparing, and these guys are just not good. There's so much badly written history, and one of the problems is that the innocent reader thinks that's their fault because they're too stupid.
I think history writers should have a thing where if they're going to school to be a history writer, I think one big part they should learn is how to write fiction first. Learn how to tell a story and then take the facts and tell the story. That's the biggest problem I feel like with history.
And then you have certain history writers who do both at the same time.
Yeah.
They write history and fiction.
The same book.
There's several authors that come leaping to mind that no one should ever go near. But I remember the joke was I'm going to take the guides exam. I've seen the movie 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
That's when the exam was $60.
Right.
My exam, there were lots of people who took the exam openly admitting that it was on a dare.
Really?
Yeah, when my exam happened, they hadn't had one in 5 years, which is kind of the situation now. It's 7.
Yeah.
But back then, they hadn't had an exam in 5 years. That there was a lot of built up people waiting to take the test. And there were a lot of people in there who openly said they're just on a dare. Huh. They want to see how they'll do on the written test.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, that's the only way to gauge how you'll do on the written test. There's no practice exam. I had
no expectation to be advanced and that's the written exam. I was taking it to see what it would be like, hoping that sometime before I retired, I would actually have a shot at getting ranked on the. Remember, it's not pass fail.
No, I know.
It's a ranking system.
It's a ranking, yeah.
In my year, a academic score of 94 on the test was insufficient to be ranked.
Yeah.
And of course,
so you got more than a 90.
But I don't think they're doing that again though this year, aren't they?
Well, they because they have this interim process of interviews and a field practicum.
They're making it easier for
they're taking more people off the test. I wouldn't want to say easier, but in my class they took 21 people. As I understand it now, they're taking like 40 because they're gonna weed out half of them in the interview process.
Yeah.
And then the oral exam will weed out half of those, and they'll end up with the 12 or 15 that.
And do they ever dip back into the well to get more if they need more?
Don't work that way. You have to do it again.
So that's still the case.
Yeah,
I think Angie said it differently on the show.
Well, this was a different guy at a different time.
Right.
She may have changed these policies.
So
I would go with what she tells you.
Well, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I'd have to watch the whole show again, and I can't stand listening to myself. So it's going to be somebody listen to it for me and report back. Thank you. Yeah. All right, listen. We have to move on. So Cindy, come on in and bring the stool for Ralph to sit on so he can clap. And then we're gonna do the news with the girls, okay?
So I'm taking these headphones.
Yeah, Cindy's gonna take your chair now. It's we're not that big of a facility here, so we have very little.
You're lucky we have other chairs.
I didn't mean anything I said about the sourdough bread, by the way. I hope.
Why do you hate me so?
I love you. You can't. Well, I shouldn't say that on the air.
Oh, your wife might be watching.
Oh,
careful.
Now it's controversial.
All right, so there we go.
My wife don't listen to this thing.
You're sitting here.
She doesn't do podcasts.
Right, you're gonna sit in the middle.
Catch full episodes of AG Today live every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern to keep up with everything that's going on in Gettysburg and with the Addressing Gettysburg community.